It's time to cook with Susan Beck. Well, I just got home from work and I brought home with me this big box of beautiful Macintosh apples. One of my friends said their tree had just produced an amazing amount of apples and asked if I wanted some, and she gave me all of these gorgeous apples. They're just like almost perfect. Now we have a few apples on our tree, but ours just don't look this great. Usually I go up to the orchards this time of year and I pick up a bag of seconds in order to make homemade applesauce. And that's what we're going to do today, is turn these apples into a great applesauce that is freezable. So when we're done, we're gonna have a lot of it. We'll probably have a little of it for supper tomorrow night, and the rest will go into the freezer to be enjoyed all winter long. Now, this is an easy recipe in that we're just going to simply peel and core our apples, slice them up, and put them into a crock pot. Now, it does take overnight for these apples to cook down, so it takes a little time, but not time while you're standing in the kitchen, just time for that crock pot to work. I do have a handy device that I'm going to use today. Let's get this cutting board out of the way for a second. I have this apple peeler and core, and this thing is just fantastic. In fact, I bought one for my niece and nephew because after they used it here, they thought it was great and wanted to own one. So I have attached my apple to this 3-prong system, and I just simply turn a handle and it peels it, and if I go all the way, pop it out. Usually pops out well, there we go, and it cores it. So I like to then just run a knife through one direction, so I have little halves, and off to the crock pot this goes. Okay, there we go. Let's do another one. So this apple corer is just such a nifty little device, and it only costs like, I don't know, $15 I think is what I paid for it. We've had it for several years. It holds up well. Just a little rinse off when we're done, and it's easy cleanup as well. So it has this big suction cup on the bottom, so you need a dry, clean surface, and then you're gonna flip this lever and press it down. It slides over easily. Now this is attached to my countertop. I need to get my handle back to the start, and then I have these 3 prongs here. And those 3 prongs are where my apple is going to attach. So onto those 3 prongs goes an apple. I want to go right through the core. I push it all the way back, and as I spin, off come the peel. I'll show you that from another direction. From this view, you might be able to see those 3 prongs better. So I'm gonna stick this apple onto those prongs, and I just spin the handle, and when it hits this little horseshoe, it starts peeling it. It hits the end, and it takes the core out, and I just go until it's all the way through. Of course, having a fancy little core for your apples is not necessary. You can always just pick up a peeler and simply peel away those skins and cut core and slice with a knife. No big deal. It works just as easily, and your applesauce will turn out just as well. My crock pot is heaping full. These will cook down, so you won't get quite as much as it looks like. But go ahead and fill your crock pot. Add in about 3/4 cup of water. Just give it a slight bit of moisture. Now we're going to put on the lid, and we're going to let these cook on high for about 2 to 3 hours. These are really cooking down, so I'm just going to put it on warm while I go and sleep for 8 hours. Well, it is time to have a look in the crock pot and see how this applesauce turned out. So I did 2 hours on high, and then I turned it to warm overnight because my apples were cooking really well. And look at that beautiful golden applesauce. Now, if you still feel it's a little chunky for you, you could puree it. I just tend to usually use it just like it is. Another option would be to take one of these potato mashers, and you could kind of just beat up any last chunks that you felt needed to be broken down a bit. But I think mine's good to go. I like it just like this. Well, now it's time to taste this applesauce. Those apples are so good. Now, I'm going to leave this as an unsweetened applesauce. I think there is enough sweetness to the apples, and I'm not a real strong sugar person. My husband's probably going to disagree with that, but we're not going to add any sugar to this today. You could add up to, I wouldn't do any more than a 1/4 cup of sugar, and that could be brown sugar or your granulated white sugar, either one that you would like if you would like your applesauce a little more sweetened. What I am going to do is add some cinnamon. I'm not going to overdo the cinnamon either. I'm just going to put 1 teaspoon into my applesauce and stir that in. Now this is just ready to eat, or we have a lot, so I do want to package and freeze some of it, and that's one of my favorite things about this recipe as well. The apples are fresh and ready to be picked or picked up at the orchard. Then I can just take care of my applesauce for the whole winter. So this applesauce could go into some freezer containers and just pop a lid on those. And these are great because they fit in like the door racks of my upright freezers. Or my husband has a wonderful vacuum sealer that he's bought. And so I'm just gonna put one of these bags into the container. He's got different sizes here, so this would be like a 2-person and a 4-person size meal. And I am just going to use this container though with the plastic bag in it to make it a little easier to fill. I'm probably gonna make a mess here as I do this, trying to get it into that center. Let's move that over so I can set it down. And in goes my applesauce. And just clean up the tops of these and seal the bags and put these into the freezer. Now, I mentioned that I wasn't going to add any sugar, just the cinnamon, but you could add the sugar later if you were going to reheat this. I would want to heat it up again if I was going to put the sugar in just to break down those sugar crystals. You can eat this warm or cold, but I do enjoy heating it up a little bit. So there is our applesauce made with fresh apples, ready for the freezer or ready to just eat now.